Welcome back to Sunday Night in America. The filibuster, or what's left of it, has been in the news quite a bit. Some Democrats promised to get rid of the filibuster should they retake the Senate. As it stands, many things already do not require 60 votes, like reconciliation. The one big beautiful bill was done through reconciliation, but there can be more than one bite at the apple, and there are no promises when it comes to who will control Congress in the future. Right now, voters have given Republicans the gift to govern. With those majorities and the White House, what can be done between now and the midterms? Joining us is Congressman Brandon Gill from the great state of Texas. Welcome, Congressman. Will there be another reconciliation package? And in your judgment, what should be in it?
Well, we're working on that right now. In fact, the House just last week passed another reconciliation bill, or at least the budget resolution, which is the first step in unlocking reconciliation. Remember, as you pointed out, reconciliation is the procedural vehicle that allows us to pass bills without that requiring that 60-vote filibuster threshold that the Senate always adheres to. What we're trying to do here, because we've talked a lot about the Save America Act and how important this legislation is, how it's a key priority for not only just the president, but the American people. This is something that the American people are demanding. The Senate has refused to take it up. They keep falling back on that 60-vote threshold and using that as an excuse. What we're trying to do is to pass the Save America Act, or at least as much of it as we can, as part of a reconciliation package. So we passed the first step of that last week. It's now in the Senate's hands. They've got 2 weeks before August recess, and I sure hope that they take this up and get as much of this done as we can.
All right, Congressman, you're a smart fella, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit. You are leading a probe into the American Bar Association, among other things, inter alia. Here's the ABA president, and then I'll ask you about it on the other side.
Women, lawyers of color, and other groups remain drastically underrepresented in the American legal community. Barriers still remain. Barriers that prevent talented individuals from pursuing legal careers and rising within the profession once they enter it. Working to identify and reduce those barriers enhances merit within the profession itself.
All right, Congressman, here's what's got me scratching my head. Right now, over half the incoming class of law students is female, and 37% are students of color. I have no idea what she's talking about. What barriers? Most kids I talk to now that are looking at law school are either women or students of color. What is she talking about?
Well, that's the thing. She will never be able to tell you what barriers exist, because the reality is they simply don't. But what the truth also is that the ABA, under her leadership, and actually for quite some time now, has been pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what that really means is racial quotas. The ABA has a lot of authority over law schools across the country, authority because they are the law school accreditor nationally and at the state level. So they have the authority to influence law school admissions decisions, but also the curriculum that law schools provide, as well as the continuing education that lawyers who are members of the ABA have to go through. And they have been pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion, essentially racial quotas on law schools for a very long time now. And it's about time they be called out for that. I think they ought to lose their accreditation status, but that's what we're working towards right now.
I can tell you, Brandon, we just swore in an African-American judge in South Carolina named Sharia Clark, and of all the things in the world she does not need, a quota would be at the top of the list. She would be a judge no matter what. All right, while I got you, when will we see the factual predicate that Jack Smith relied upon to access the private communications of your colleagues and your colleagues across the Capitol in the Senate? I'd love to see the factual predicate.
Mm-hmm. I think that we need to get that out publicly as soon as we can. Listen, the reality is that Jack Smith weaponized the Department of Justice to go after the president, to go after the his political enemies by using what was essentially a dragnet to collect as many phone records as he possibly could of sitting Republican congressmen, people in the Trump administration, so that he could find anything he could to ruin them. That was the goal of the Arctic Frost investigation. And what we found is that Jack Smith hasn't been very candid with us about his actions during that time. In fact, he said one thing during his congressional deposition, said that he didn't seek out the content of phone records or of text messages. We come to find out later that he actually did receive the actual content of text messages, not just the toll data, the metadata, but the actual content of it. And that's why the House Judiciary Committee has sent a referral to the Department of Justice referencing Jack Smith.
More power to you. There was an old country song called A Little Trouble with the Truth, and that's what I thought about when I saw Jack Smith, what he told y'all, versus what really happened. But I'm not going to sing the song. Brandon Gill from the great state of Texas, thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.
Thanks for having me.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.